everyone. I'm Bob Jolly, director of the St. Johnsbury Athenaeum. Welcome to this Arts and Culture Series presentation, So You Have a Manuscript, Now What? Tonight, Doreen Lyon and Jared Lyon will speak about cookbooks. Just a few details, then I'll introduce Doreen and turn the program over to her and Jared. This series is supported in part by Vermont Humanities. Any views, findings, conclusions, recommendations expressed do not necessarily represent those of Vermont Humanities. They could make the recipes and succeed, we shall say that. This program is being recorded. You'll receive the address to view the recording at a few days after it's edited. Tomorrow, you'll receive a feedback form. We'd love to hear from you to tell us how to improve things, how to change things. Just give us some feedback so we know we can gain from your information. I just want to mention the next 3 upcoming programs on April 13th, and all of these are the second Wednesday of the month. David Martin will speak on children's picture books. On May 18th, Archer and Margot Mayer will speak on she's coming in, on mystery publishing, and on June 8th, Rachel Hadas will speak on poetry publishing. To register for these, you can go to www.stjathenaeum.org. Let me introduce our speaker. Doreen Lyon is an enthusiastic home cook and the 1970 Maple Queen of Vermont.
Ooh.
She is an avid collector of cookbooks and recipes. As a way of chronicling her family's best recipes, she decided to create and publish a maple cookbook. She spent a full year cooking, baking, photographing, and proofreading her favorite recipes. With the help of her son, Jared, the end product was Recipes from a Maple Queen, of which she has sold over 5,000 copies to date. Doreen is a lifelong resident of the Northeast Kingdom. Doreen, Jared, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. So you've kind of introduced my son, Jared, already. He collaborated with me on this book. Without his help, it probably wouldn't be as beautiful as it is. He did the organization and design of the book.
Mm-hmm. Most of the tech stuff.
Yes. Pat on the back, Jared. So we're going to start by talking about self-publishing. And when we talk about self-publishing, we're specifically talking about print on demand.
Yep.
Specifically, we used Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing. The other types of self-publishing, there are other types where you find a book manufacturer to do the production and warehousing of inventory. We didn't do that. I didn't want a whole bunch of inventory sitting in my house. So the print on demand works perfect. You can go to Amazon, order the book, it's printed and delivered straight to you. So, I'm free from having the inventory and shipping out books. So just this week, I read an article about a man who decided to self-publish 4 upcoming books. And he so far has raised $25 million through online fundraising. Oh. And he still has 20 more days to go. He went an involved route.
Whoa.
I know.
So he didn't do the print on demand route. It's just to
yes.
It's
going to be interesting. He's going to be shipping.
So he has to contact a publisher, deal with the shipping and all that. Whereas print on demand, you just when the book is ordered, Amazon prints it, binds it, and mails it. Much easier on our part.
Yeah, so much simpler. Let's see, we have
a lot of other people who do that, right? Not just Amazon. Did you look at others, or did you just sort of settle on Amazon?
Well, we actually have 2. At the beginning, I think Mom wanted a hardcover book, and Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, they don't do hardcovers. So there's a site called Lulu, Lulu, and we use them to do the hardcover book. The hardcover book is far more expensive. It's bigger as well. So we did look at those too, and you can actually buy it from both. And I should also say, Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing at the time was called Create Space. It was still an Amazon subsidiary, but now they're really pushing the Kindle brand more. So they changed Create Space to now Kindle Direct Publishing.
And we've never done the Kindle version. It's pretty hard to do a cookbook with pictures in a Kindle version.
Yeah, most Kindle books, they are, you can adjust the font size and stuff like that. It really works better for text-only books, especially also many Kindles, if not all, no, there's a color one. Most of them are black and white, so it just removes any of the deliciousness of the photos when you convert it to black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who wants to eat a black and white picture?
Oh,
You know? So we got Liz with us today. Liz, I'm just going to ask you if you've ever thought about doing your own cookbook, and if so, you know, what would it be? Would it be family recipes, a dessert book, maybe a recipe book about camping?
Well, I've never thought about creating a cookbook, but I have a folder of very, very special recipes, and my recipes are kind of like my memory box. I'll look at a recipe and I remember the person who gave it to me and think about our relationship, and it just brings up, it's so dear to me. And I have, of everything of when my mother passed away, the only thing I wanted was her hood cookbook from, from
Yep, I know.
1940 something, I don't know, where she wrote little notes in it.
Yeah, those are special. Those are special. Karumi, is that how you pronounce your name, Miss Patton?
Yes.
Yes, that was a yes. I think
Okay. I didn't catch the yes. Have you thought about doing a cookbook at all?
Yes.
Oh, nice. And what kind of cookbook would it be?
Well, I want I don't know, maybe for children, for eating healthy food,
Nice.
or maybe young mother or has small children.
Yep. That would be a good one. So when you doing a book is basically broken down into 5 stages. And that's what we're going to discuss tonight. And usually the 5 stages include idea and planning. You can't write anything without initially having an idea. And gathering, content, editing, publishing, and promotion. And after I talk about each of these stages, if you guys have a question, you're more than welcome to ask it. Raise your hand. I can see you all. Chris, you had a question already?
Well, I just wondered if your general feeling, we're talking, you know, here's Karumi talking about maybe doing a cookbook to do with very young children, you know, trying to feed healthy food to very young children, which now that I have a granddaughter, I know what she's talking about. And or for young mothers trying to prepare food for babies or something like that. So how important do you think it is to be really specialized? Do you think it's important do you think the only way to have a cookbook these days is to have a sort of a new and different angle?
Well, I think it's eye-catching to do a different angle. And specialized books, I mean, when I'm looking at
That's what you
cookbooks,
did.
I tend to look at specialized books. you know, like maybe only one that's breads, because I love to make bread. But, you know, with my book, I wanted it to include using maple in all categories
Okay.
of cooking. And that's why, you know, we have all these categories.
And I think it's a
So-
competitive market, you know, like
It is.
everyone goes right for Joy of Cooking, or, you know, there's some of those huge books. Those are like the go-tos. So how do you compete with that? You really don't, you know, but, you know,
Right.
there's not a lot of maple cookbooks around. There really isn't.
No.
No, and I wanted my book to be easy enough for anybody to make the recipes in there. And some of those are old family recipes. I've got one about donuts that calls for an ingredient, a scoop of shortening the size of an egg,
Oh, yeah.
because some of your old recipes were written that way. But,
Yeah.
but we're going to go through the 5 stages, and we're going
Okay.
to start with the first stage, which is the idea. And you have to have an overall idea. And one day I was talking to my son Jared on the phone, and I said to him that I wanted all of my maple recipes in one place, so I did not have to keep searching for them.
Mhm.
And, you know, I mean, his comment was, well, why don't you do one so, you know, your family can have one too? And then, you know, your friends might like one. And first thing you know, it got big. And then we decided to start looking at self-publishing. So,
And that was a key point, I think, you know, talking about audience. Whenever you are going to be doing something, and, you know, like Kurumi mentioned, her audience would be this specific group, you know,
right.
young parents. The audience for us was really anyone who wants maple. But at first it was just, oh, let's do this and give one to the family. But I thought, well, why, if we're going to put all this work into this, why not put it up somewhere where other people can get to it as well? And that's, you know, an interesting point about print on demand, is that if you're not going into it for the money, you could still just do this as a book, and it's very easy to get something up, especially if it's, I mean, it's harder for a cookbook because there's photos, but anyone can really use this print on demand method. You can upload a Word document and then to Amazon, and then say, okay, here's the cover. And then within minutes, well, let's say a few hours, maybe, if you already have the book written, it's really not that difficult to translate it into, oh, now someone can click and print this anywhere around the world.
Yeah, Amazon uses different publishing, I think, in different areas of the country too. Because, you know, I've noticed that one of the most recent ones I gave my coworker, you know, it was made in Connecticut.
Oh, the manufacturers,
Yeah, the manufacturer. So, you know, who knows where it's being manufactured? It's in the country, though. That's a good thing. So there's also the gathering of content. So I had to gather my recipes. I had to rewrite them all into a Word document. So I did a lot of typing. And, you know, then you have to really explore the ingredients, you know, like if it says a tub of Cool Whip, you know, you really have to put it into ounces, because ingredients change over time. Not the ingredients, but the size.
Yeah.
So, you know, a tub of Cool Whip, maybe, you know, 12 ounces now.
Mhm.
I'm not really sure exactly. I've never looked at that, but, or a box of something, you know, a box size can change over time. So you really have to put things into ounces, and, you know, it's time consuming. And then a few of the recipes, you know, I mentioned family stories. There's a little section under the recipe, you know, that may have a little story. Like, for instance, when I was a Maple Queen, I did a segment on Across the Fence.
Mm.
And I brought in some things that I had made, and I included those recipes in the cookbook. And it'll mention in there that this is one of the recipes that was on Across the Fence. too bad we can't get footage for that, so we can see that. That would really be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, you have to, what do I want to talk about? Copywriting.
Oh,
So ingredients, let's see if I get this right, Jared. Ingredients cannot be copyrighted. Am I right?
Yeah, lists, a list of ingredients is copyright free, correct?
Right.
okay.
So you have to be careful how you do the instructions. You can't copy them word for word, you know?
Yeah, the instructions are really what you're copywriting, and the story,
Right.
you know, it's all part of this gathering content stage after the ideation and planning. But yeah, so you know, you can't copyright anyone else's instructions, but also that's why the stories, I mean, the stories are really the bread and butter. Those are completely copyright. They're right out of your mouth onto the page. But yeah, the instructions and stories are really what is the copyright, not the lists.
Yeah, it's kind of something we really we had to explore that because we didn't know.
And the
Yeah.
photographs?
And that's the next content stage right there. On
Okay.
yep.
Yep, we're moving right along.
Perfect.
Chris, if you get that
Jumping
with
all
you.
around here.
Yeah, so.
I was just
then-
wondering about the copyright business, you know, if the copyright also had to extend, if you had to do a separate one because it was art or something.
The photos are all
Yep.
well, yeah,
They're-
mom took all the photos, so that
I took all the photos on a small Kodak digital camera. I think it was 10 megapixel, just this little tiny camera. I did all the pictures.
Mhm.
So I think I decided that I had an eye for photography that I didn't know I had.
and we
So
decided,
I took all the pictures. And then I would send them off to Jared to see if there was any of them he could use. And once in a while, he'd say, I cannot use that picture. I cannot use any of those pictures you just sent. And he says, you're going to have to take another round of pictures. And I said, I can't. We ate the pie. It was the pie. It was the maple pecan pie. We ate it. So
photography is so important to a cookbook, you know. So I was like, oh, you need to fix the lighting or do something because this pie looks gray and we cannot, I want these to be mouth-watering photos. And most of them were. Every once in a while, though, there was that learning curve of we need to switch something here.
yeah. And I did find that taking the pictures outdoors, the lighting outdoors is like perfect.
Mm.
You don't have to worry about shadows. Sometimes I used a photo box to take the pictures. But I found that taking them outside, it was where I had the best luck. I call it luck.
Well, and
'Cause
staging is really important too, you know, and that's something that's so unique about cookbooks versus a murder mystery book or poems. You have to learn photography and how to stage food, you know, like, oh, I can see this random thing in this shot. I need to move this, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not the cook, but parsley or whatever, you know, just stage the photo and know where you're gonna crop it for the book.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, and then you've got, you know, your plates and things that you're going to display your food on.
Mm.
Can't use the same one for everything. I mean, I have a cheesecake. I think it's the cheesecake that's sitting on a sap cover, a galvanized sap cover. It's flat.
Mm.
And I use that to put the cheesecake on. But yeah, you've got to be thinking about dishes. And yeah, there's a lot to taking pictures of food. And I think I got better as I went along.
Mhm.
I think I just got better at it.
Yeah.
And are
agree.
all the pictures in color?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So actually right now, Mom, I will share the screen
Yes.
if that's fine.
Perfect.
And we'll just show some of these photos so people can actually see this book that we're
Oh,
talking
look at Liz has got a book.
Oh,
Oh.
good.
about. There it is. Perfect. I
Well,
hope
check
she
this
signed
out,
that
Liz.
copy. I hope she signed that, Liz.
Yes, I was gonna find, and I was gonna find that cheesecake. I was gonna
Oh,
find,
she's looking.
yeah, I was gonna find the cheesecake so to show it. Let's see.
Is the cheesecake one of the chapter pictures?
Oh, it's not actually.
Oh,
I
okay.
was just going to. I can probably find it as well. Oh God, I had my.
Look in the index, Liz.
I'm looking.
That's
What
why
do you-
it's there.
What did you call it in the index?
Oh, it's probably a maple cheesecake.
Probably.
Let's see if it's this one, 54.
Okay.
There it is. Yeah. Oh, I see it too. Okay, I can share the screen.
Okay.
I found this specific one.
Oh, did you?
Wait, I don't see it.
Well, he hasn't
I
got it
haven't
up
shared it
yet.
yet. I'm
I haven't
trying
got
to share. I'm going to actually share my screen twice probably, but right
Oh,
now-
yes,
oh,
it's
it's right
wonderful.
here.
It's got little ripple edges on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Artistically dribbled.
Yes, I tell you,
Such a
Yeah,
great.
that's a trick, let me tell you.
I'm going to actually stop sharing the screen and then reshare it because I have to find this other. It was on another.
And I want to show the pecan pie. How
Oh,
beautiful
yeah,
it
there
is.
it is. See how good it looks.
Yes.
Yes.
So I do. My background. I'm actually a web developer, but I work in a marketing department, and I'm sort of a Photoshop pro. So I did all the color correcting, and sometimes, in fact, in that pecan pie picture, the two pies aren't even next to each other like in the picture. The photo that Mom gave me was portrait, and I said, well, this is going to be a chapter photo, or yeah, every chapter has long photos, so I had to cut out the pie and move it over next to the other one.
Right.
So with that, I will actually share some of these chapter photos. So for those who haven't seen it, this is the front cover and back cover of the book. The interesting thing is right here in the background is the Taylor family, my mom's side of the family's sugar house.
Mhm.
So we wanted that in the photo, but it was a bit busy when everything was in focus because we really wanted people to see these syrup containers and this beautiful brooch that she won when she won the 1970.
Have it on.
Oh,
There it is. And in the acknowledgements, we do acknowledge the artist as well. So there's several different sections to the book. There's, again, the Taylor family sugar house introduction. We sort of wanted to talk about why Mom has clout for making this book. You know, like anyone can make a book, but she was the 1970 Maple Queen of Vermont. And
right.
so she has some sort of
Credentials.
There we go. Yep. So there's several sections to the book. First, we have the intro, and then the table of contents comes right after that. We wanted just some of these
Ooh.
mouth-watering photos.
Oh,
And one interesting thing that we sort of dealt with later in the process is for usability, I thought, well, how interesting would it be if the edges of the book per chapter have these little, I don't know, tabs. They're just colored, but when you look at the book on the side, if you bend it, you can actually see the different chapters, and they correspond with this. Basics is this light yellow, breakfast. So these, these two green ones are these two. So you can actually navigate the book quite well with these little tabs. And then I'll just, this is the spread of the basics chapter. And again, there's that tab. And here you can tell she's taken that photo outside.
yeah.
And as I progress, you'll see these tabs move down. So these are all the chapters of the book, and every first page of the chapter, first spread, has a big full page photo on the left. And there's appetizers, breads, donuts, and there they all are. This is my favorite photo because that looks delicious, that steak.
Mhm.
And there's that pecan pie. Yeah, because I'm such a very good, you just cut around this and then I moved it over because it needed to be in this vertical. And then it ends with candy. And then finally the index, which is very important for any cookbook. One of the things we sort of started doing was, well, let's just put all the recipes in alphabetical order. And then decided, oh, so the letter M is going to be huge. We really need to think about how we can change this index so it's not just everything under M. So we did it by main ingredient, really. And that made it flow a little bit better so people can look in and look under cheesecake, and there it is. Or it's better than organizing alphabetically in a cookbook because every single, well, not every recipe, but 90% of these start with maple something.
Right.
And then also as part of this production, I made a little website. I'm a web developer, and there's that Lulu on the left there, the hardcover book, and then the softcover on Amazon. Then if I were to scroll down, I can't because this is a screenshot, but it sort of talks about the differences between the books, and they're completely full color. Every page is full color, really. Even if it's just black text on the page, the way that print on demand works, it's really about your whole piece. And so it's a full color book. There's one more. And we have a Facebook page as well for the book. So
Yeah, so if you haven't been to the Facebook page, you should go there and like it.
Yeah, just search for recipes from a Maple Queen on Facebook and you'll find this page.
Right.
Okay.
So then after that, we go to editing. And I'll tell you, you cannot proofread enough. You know, you edit, edit, edit. I don't know how many times I read through that book, and it seemed like I always found some little thing that wasn't quite right. And Jared, yeah, he mentioned he works in marketing, and he had a coworker edit the book also. And still, it ended up with a couple editing things that got missed. But we've since fixed those, you know, over time, we keep marking them down, and they can be fixed pretty easily now.
And just to interject, that's one of the beauties of print on demand, because I can actually make the edit and upload the PDF. And now the next person that orders from Amazon gets those corrected things. I mean, I think the corrections we've done were minor. Sometimes, you know,
Yeah.
just a serial comma, or, you know, maybe
A
we
phone
had,
number.
yeah,
There
a
was
phone
the
number.
phone number.
But that's the great thing about print on demand. We didn't have, you know, I don't know, 1,000 books that now we knew had a typo in them, and there's nothing we could do about it.
Right.
Yep. So
And
that's
also
pretty
just to
interesting.
mention, maybe for the recording for later, is that I believe the Athenaeum has a list of resources for, you know, the proofreader, a proofreader resource. So if anyone watches this down the line, you can contact St. J. Athenaeum and they should be able to give you that information.
Sure.
But you guys did it yourselves, is that right? Rather than
Yes.
hiring somebody to do it?
Right.
Correct.
See,
That's brave
No.
of you.
yeah,
I'm pretty good working in
I
marketing.
have an ace in the hole.
Yeah, I, you know, commas are a big thing. Even like, it's such a minor thing, but I have an OCD about it. There's things that are called straight quotes, and it's just, you know, like if you were saying Doreen's apostrophe S, sometimes it's straight, and I wanted all of them to be curly ones because it just design-wise looks a little better. So I'm going through and making sure every one of those apostrophes was not a straight apostrophe, but a curly one. So she's lucky she has someone so OCD about things.
Yes. Yes. And then we wanted it to flow. So then we have the narrative flow. You know, you want create chapters, start with basics and breakfast, you know, and move through to desserts and candy, you know,
Yeah.
almost like a meal.
Like a
kind of.
logical progression of the
Yes.
chapters. Yeah.
Yep. And I wanted to kind of organize recipes within the chapters, you know, like keep kind of like all your breads together.
Yeah, like-
Donuts, muffins, you know, that kind of thing. You know, the pies and dessert, keep your pies all together, you know, not have them scattered through the chapter.
Like if we did it alphabetically within the chapter, things wouldn't be in the same zone, you know, like, so do all the pies here and, you know, or all the breads or all the, you know,
Right.
so inter-chapter organization. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Did you
and
look
then,
at a lot of cookbooks before you started, or did you just sort of get started?
just got started.
Yeah.
I
just
mean, she
because.
has a whole collection of cookbooks.
Oh, I
so-
have a lot of cookbooks. I love cookbooks. I read them like novels, you know. And I have a lot of really old antique cookbooks, you know,
Uh-huh.
and they're really interesting to me because they cooked differently. You know, they didn't always measure. So I do. I have a passion for cookbooks. I always have, and I probably always will. Jared did all the photo color correction and retouching. He's kind of mentioned that already. That's all him.
That's, yeah, definitely part of this editing stage that we're in right talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was something else I was going to mention. What was it? Oh, actually, this leads into this sort of fourth stage, which is, you know, finalizing stuff for publishing. What I was going to say is you had asked if we looked at a lot of cookbooks. I actually, for design purposes, I did look at a lot of cookbooks, just trying to figure out, well, how do we, you know, what's the best way to organize this? Or just layout, I mean, organization. And, you know, it's pretty common to have the ingredients on the left and then maybe a body of text in the story on the right. But even, you know, thinking about what font we wanted to use, we went through a few different ones, and then I found this great one, which I actually don't even remember the name of it right now, but it's very rustic, and it's the one that's on the cover. I don't know if I can show it.
It's
You know,
what's in the
it's,
whole book.
Yeah, and every recipe then also, you know, has that same font. It's really hard to see because of my background. I apologize,
Yeah.
but it was sort of a rustic font, and I just liked it. It's sort of calligraphic. So yeah, in this fourth stage, you know, preparing for print, it was, we have all this content, we've got all of it edited, and now we have to start wrapping it up and get this thing done. And this is where not for us, because we had decided on the title sort of very early on, but this is where you have to finalize the title, get it all formatted, lay it out, you know, decide the organization. And then looking at books, I thought, oh, we don't have an acknowledgements section. So we ended up adding that sort of at this stage because we were looking at other books, and I thought, oh yeah, we need to, you know, acknowledge the artist for her brooch, but also mention her family's sugar production and her friends. And there was a bunch of different things we put in that acknowledgement section. And that's also where I learned how to do the copyright page, which, and you know, you can always use Google to search for this too, but books need a copyright page, and it's right at the beginning. Actually, I'll try and show it. It's just beyond the cover page. Let's see how well this works, but just a page that lists,
Yeah.
you know, those types of things. It's sort of weird.
Yeah, the ISBN number.
Yeah, right.
You
The
know?
ISBN, I think the first one, you have to submit it once, and then they give you an ISBN, and then I went back and put it in and then uploaded it. And this is the publishing stage. This is where we sort of, was pretty sure we were going to do Amazon Direct Publishing, Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, Amazon KDP, a lot of people call it. In terms of cover design, again, it's actually several different photos. Each thing of maple syrup is a different photo. The background's a different photo, the brooch. So I sort of composited it all together, but that's sort of a talent I have. For those who don't have that ability, one great site that I know people use is called Fiverr.com. It's Fiverr.com. So it has 2 R's at the end. It started where, you know, you could just log in and say, hey, I'm going to give someone $5 to do something for me, maybe proofread a PowerPoint slide or presentation. But people spend far more money than $5 on that as well. But that's a resource that you can use for getting a cover made. I think Amazon has their own resource as well that you can throw them some money and you have a meeting and then someone designs something for you. But Fiverr is a great resource for all different kinds of things, not just you know, proofreading, cover design, that site. And you pick the amount and the number of revisions you want to do with a person. It's a good little resource. Also part of this publishing stage is the book blurb. It's very important. The book blurb is a paragraph that sort of talks about your book for an online store. It's just maybe 2 sentences. That and the tagline, which our tagline is on the back of the book, but on the Amazon store, it's the first line of the book blurb. That's how people are going to decide if they want your book or not. And in terms of sort of search engine optimization, you need to make sure that your blurb has the topic of your book. So if we didn't have the word maple in the blurb, that would have been unfortunate because it would be hard to search for and find the book. And so if it's about, recipes for young parents or recipes for healthy children, you sort of need to make sure you mention that topic. So that, and that's how people found the video too, I think, which we'll mention in a second. So Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, it's a amazing service that I had never even used before, but we figured it out over the course of, well, the book took
The
over.
learning experience, believe me. Yes. And then you get an author proof book after you've, kind of done.
Yeah.
It's not really completely published yet. See, he's showing one that has a bar across the front of it.
And it says not for resale.
Right. So you get this author proof, and then you go through that and you make corrections. Like in the first round, there was some photos that looked kind of blue. The colors didn't seem quite real. And, food doesn't look blue.
Yeah.
Not very often anyway. And, Jared went through and took the blue out of the photos and even the cover. Make it look better.
Yeah.
I'm just so lucky I have him.
In this, it's amazing how, go back 10 years ago or, 15 years ago, these print-on-demand services didn't exist. You needed the internet for these to be available. And it's just amazing to me that anyone can make a book now.
Yeah. And, in the case of my cookbook, I wanted a cookbook with pictures.
Mhm.
I tend to buy a cookbook if there's pictures of the final product that you're making. And cookbooks that don't have pictures, they just don't usually interest me as much. People like to see what something is supposed to look like. But, there's some sections in there that are, they're hard. The candy section, you have to pay attention when you're making candy. And I thought it came out pretty well. The candy section. I like candy.
Yeah, there's one spread in particular that when I'm gonna just find it because it was, and I thought, I don't think I've ever had either of these. And these are something you could mail to me, Mom. And
those, yes.
Oh, yeah.
The salted caramels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
then
the
the
maple date nut.
And I
balls,
thought those
yeah.
would ship easily out to Rochester, New York.
So
That's
did
a
you look
great-
into doing a binding, like a curly binding so that the book would stay open flat? Or is that not something that Amazon offers?
They don't offer it.
No.
It actually, these are ones that I've never broke there's actually a ridge here that you can break, it'll bend towards. But laying flat was something that we talked about. The hardcover lays more flat, but then we just figured, you know what? Once it's broken in, you can also put something to weigh it down. But yeah, it's not like they don't offer the service to do a spiral bound and then wrap it in a hardcover that some cookbooks have.
Yeah. It can be sort of a make or break. I mean, once you've had cookbooks where you open them enough times, then all of a sudden the pages are loose.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's the quality with the Amazon books? Do they seem to hold up, or is it a little tricky to, keep them going? I just wonder how, after time, does the spine stay pretty well?
I think so.
Never had anybody say their book came apart,
Okay.
but family all got the hardcover version.
Right. Yeah.
Did you see the ones that I dropped off at the Athenaeum? Did you have a
I
chance
haven't
to
yet.
look at them?
Not yet. Bob, have you got those?
There's two of them.
Yes, we do. I have to unmute myself. Yes, we do. Yeah, they're beautiful. They're in great shape, great paper stock. Yep. And it is the test of a book. If you have it for a little while, we buy, and I won't go on about this, we buy brand new fiction, hardback fiction. None of them are sewn. They're all glued. And if you bend them
Right.
too much, they break in half. So, these are brand new major publishers and they can still be poorly bound. So binding is a big deal.
Yeah.
I had a question about this model of publishing. There must be a fee to sort of keep the book available. And is there a time limit? When Amazon say, oh, you've sold X number of copies in a year, not enough for us to keep it? Or is it like in perpetuity, as long as they just refresh the files occasionally?
The Amazon takes a fee only when people buy the book. I don't know if we mention, I'm just looking through our little notes here. Oh yeah, it's the final stage is promotion, but we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, Mom can buy author copies, and the author copies, if she wanted to buy 200 of them, she gets them at a certain rate. And then Amazon does take, well, yeah, I think it would be basically what she charges is double what Amazon takes. So they take half. And if this was something that was, you went to a big manufacturer and said, or publisher and said, hey, we want to make these, it would definitely be more affordable if you had, like that guy that just raised $25 million or whatever. It's more affordable if you know that you have an audience and that you will be able to sell 1,000 of them, to go a different route maybe. But it was never sort of a money-making thing to any huge extent, but they stay on Amazon in perpetuity and they don't ever charge us a yearly fee or anything.
Okay.
It's just when someone orders the book, Amazon's taking a good chunk of that cut.
Yeah.
So that's what that's how they, instead of saying, oh, we're going to charge you yearly for this.
But you get 50% of the price.
Well, it depends on, yeah, when we initially started selling it, it was 50%. We then knocked down the price, which removed money from us because Amazon was always taking a certain amount. So let's say Amazon takes $8 for this book. If we sell it for $16 and they take $8. But if we went down to $10, we'd get $2 and Amazon still takes the $8.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it needs to be a certain price for you to make anything at all really off the book.
Because it's
a cheap book is not a good idea for Amazon because they're basically going to eat up everything. They're going to eat up the entire profit.
because
$10 book is you get nothing, you get very little. Yeah.
Because it's a full color as well. Full color changes the price drastically. If it's just a black and white, they take like $3 or $4. I think it was $3 or $4. I'd have to go back and look. But because we had 100 pages, it's also based on the page, how many pages. So we have 100 full color pages. If there were 100 black and white pages, it would be like $3 instead of $8. And that's just my vague recollection of numbers and pricing, but it's something in that ballpark. But that's why, leader evaporator, so final stage we would say is promotion. Anyone can make a book, but you have to promote it. In this case, everyone, you are your own marketer more than anyone else. Even if you have a publisher, you need to, boots on the ground and start, making connections and whatnot. And one of the things I did is one Christmas, right after the book was done, I said, okay, Mom, we're going to film a video and I want you to name drop Leader Evaporator. They are a maker of maple supplies for over a century. And I said, I want you to specifically mention them, and I might cut this section out of the video or not, I don't know. But once I edited the video together, I sent it to them saying, hey, I've made a maple cookbook and I name drop you in this little video of making a maple lollipop recipe. So I wrote it as if I was Mom writing to them. And they were like, oh, that's fantastic. And what did you say, Mom? How much of the books have you sold through them? Is it like
gosh.
30%?
Oh, at least. They are my biggest buyer of books.
So they put them on their website or something like that?
They have them in the store.
They have them in a store.
Yeah, they have them in their store in St. Albans, Enosburg, I forget. St.
Yeah.
Albans.
What about Maple Grove? Did they want them? Maple Grove was not interested, or?
You know, I don't know that I really ever reached out to them. I did have I got a maple catalog in the mail one day from Bascom, which I think is in New Hampshire. And in just looking through it, they had my cookbook in there.
Mhm.
And I had never promoted it with them.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the book, there's a picture of my dad boiling sap. And the arch says liter evaporator. You can see it. It's just to the right of his hand. And they specifically asked for a high resolution picture of that to put in their museum.
Mhm.
So, you know, my dad always bought liter evaporator equipment. And with the lollipops, my molds came from them.
Mhm.
You can't just use any lollipop mold, you know, like you can't go buy a Wilton lollipop mold because they will melt.
Mm.
So it
Yeah.
has
Oh,
to be
very-
pretty
oh,
tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're
Oops.
quite something. They're beautiful.
Yeah, there they are.
Yeah. You need to look at that book, Chris.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to find, I was just trying to find them in the bookstore, not realizing I had to order it online. That's what I will do. And, but I wasn't able, because I just thought, well, I'll just keep asking at the bookstores.
Yeah.
So it's a different thing. If it's only online, it just takes, the purchaser has to know that, or else they
Right.
just give up and say, oh, it must be out of print.
Yeah. No, I usually, well, I haven't reached out to her in a while, but Green Mountain Books in Linnedale used to
Yeah.
always carry the book.
Right. And she would like to again, by the way.
Oh, good. Perfect. I'll have to bring some down.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's-
So,
and-
you know,
yeah.
I did have them in stores like Pick and Shovel here in Newport,
Mhm.
carried the book, you know, in their maple section of their store. They also sell maple equipment now too. So they would have it in two places.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of it I didn't want to put in stores unless they bought the books outright.
Yep.
Didn't want to be running around chasing my money.
No.
So,
Absolutely.
you know, I mean, it's been a while. It's been almost 10 years.
Mhm.
And it's been a popular book. And like I said, Liter Evaporator, when they will order, you know, 150 at a time.
Yeah.
So,
I was just thinking of places like that. The what is it called? There's a big tourist place on the road up to Stowe. That's got all the cider and maple products and so forth and so on. And I mean, the buses stop there all the time.
yeah,
And there's that place, and then there's the Bragg. But again, maybe the Bragg family farm, you know, all the maple stuff, maybe they do their own cookbook for all I know.
it's possible. Something makes me think they have their own.
Yeah, but I don't think the place in Stowe does. I think they carry a lot of people's products, but I don't think they do their own.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I remember at Maple Grove in St. Jay used to have buses all the time. But
I
again,
know.
I'm not sure they're still doing that, and I'm not sure. I never saw a Maple Grove cookbook. I just don't know if they've ever done one, but it certainly isn't around.
I don't think I've ever seen a Maple Grove cookbook.
No.
And I used to shop in their store a lot.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
It's one of those things.
Places to
Endless.
revisit.
Yeah.
Places to revisit. So the promotion,
Yeah, it's all you.
I was on WCAX the 30. And I couldn't remember how I got connected with that. And then I asked my daughter, and I don't know if you're familiar with Darren Perrin. He's the news anchor.
Yeah.
He went to school with my daughter.
Oh, of course.
And his mother and I were classmates for 12 years.
There you
And
go.
she mentioned it to him. And next thing I know, I'm doing a segment on the 30.
Sure.
And the Barton Chronicle did a really nice article at one time.
Mhm.
Yeah, when I first came out with the cookbook. Yeah, so I have my Facebook page. I think the segment on the 30 is it on the Facebook page or is it on the website page?
I think I know it's on the website, recipesfromamaplequeen.com. And I don't recall if it is on the Facebook page or not. If it is, it would be back a
Yeah.
little bit. But it all just relates to, luck is such a factor for success with things, like, you
Call it
happen
who you know.
errands, it's just, and then also book signings though, like going to the book fairs, you definitely went to a bunch of those.
Yeah, I did.
Just sat around and, selling it at little, I think there was one was it Lindenville or was it in
Yep.
St. Jay? It was a
No,
Lindenville.
it was
street fair.
it was a streetwide Lindenville
Yeah.
event that they had.
Hmm.
And I sat outside the bookstore. Yep, and signed books there, sold books and signed books. And I don't know if you were on, Chris, when I was telling Bob that I judged a maple food competition at the Island Pond at the Maple Fools Fest a few years ago. And I actually, there was 3 or 4 recipes there that had come out of my book. So
Yeah.
that was interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, you just kind of have to get out there and yeah, luck is a big part of anything.
So would you ever do another cookbook?
Yeah, I would. And I think if I didn't work full time, that I'd probably be further along with a new one.
Also
'Cause-
maple or something different?
No, I think it would be just desserts
Oh.
because I like to bake.
Mhm.
We
So I
sort
may
of,
do-
yeah, I think the sort of main brand will still be Recipes from a Maple Queen, just desserts,
Yes.
so it'll be like a supplemental
Right.
book.
Right.
And
Yeah,
when
we
the
keep-
more you make, the more you sell of the original one too, like, because people might find the second one, but then the more the merrier, I guess.
Yeah,
And are you going to produce it, Jared?
of course.
You know what? She's already volunteering me. I'm a very creative person. I have many, many things that I'm always working on. So yeah, especially because we already have the grid and we used Adobe InDesign to do all the layout. And then you literally just generate a PDF and that's what you upload to Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing. But yeah, we already have the layout for it. So we have the layout, the structure. It would just be, getting that Word file of the recipes and plopping them all in. And it was, it was a fun thing to do because I've lived in Rochester, New York for, let's say 25 years now, maybe.
Mhm.
So it was, and we did it really, all the production we did virtually, even before
Yeah.
doing things virtually was a thing. Because I go home at Christmas usually to the Northeast Kingdom. And, but really most of it I did we do these video meetings and, go over the topics and it worked well. It was a fun project to do with my mom.
Yeah.
And that's basically the whole presentation. We wrote a bunch of stuff up and now those were the 5 stages, maybe just to repeat them again. It's the ideation and planning, gathering content, editing, where am I? Publishing, and then finally
Promotion. Yeah.
Those are the 5 stages. I think really those stages are for any book. More, people might word them differently, and then it just loops back around. If we wanted to add a few more recipes, you go back up into planning for where we're gonna maybe want to add a new chapter. Do a 10th anniversary edition or something. You go through the same process: planning, editing, whatever they were. I can't even remember anymore. Then the publishing, designing.
And the maple industry has really taken off now too. They use maple in everything. And there's all this infused maple syrup that you can buy. I mean, it's just gone crazy.
It'd be interesting to have a section on some of these maple spin-offs. The flavored syrups and of course the jellies or jams, all the things that people are making with maple that aren't necessarily baking, cooking or making, but what else can be done with maple that people are doing that are, I don't even know if they're using it in cosmetics or or CBD, you know,
Oh, they have
flavored.
maple CBD oil.
There you
I've
go.
s-
Maple,
I've
of
seen
course, maple CBD oil.
Of
Uh,
course.
But it'd be fun to sort of, you know, incorporate a little bit of the spin-off of what maple does
Right.
and what people have done, and not just along with your chapter on you know, sort of background of maple syrup per se. Yeah.
Right.
So it
I know
might
that
be a
there's
way to.
maple vodka. I know there's maple
Oh, there's
vodka.
maple vodka.
Yes.
Absolutely. There's several places in Vermont that are making, in fact, I think
Yes.
there's other maple, maybe, I'm not sure about gin, but I think there's some other maple, and there are a lot of
Rum.
maple beers.
Rum right
Oh,
here in
yeah.
St. Johnsbury, maple rum.
Right in St. J.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Doreen, it's a cookbook, meaning you must have made every recipe many times. Probably you had made many of them over and over. You and I talked when we were planning for this months ago, and I mentioned that Silver Palette cookbook. It was kind of famous because it had a bunch of botchy recipes in it that
Mhm.
obviously the editor or the publisher hadn't, the writer hadn't actually made. But so yours are foolproof, right? Even I could probably learn to make those lovely maple lollipops. Those were gorgeous.
Yes.
But
You
that would be the
could.
hardest thing of all.
Yeah, I know.
the-
That sounded like it
the
would be the
candy.
hardest thing.
I know.
Candy
Let's
is
just jump right
very-
into the hardest thing to
Yeah.
do. Get a good thermometer and make sure it's accurate.
Yeah. Do any of your recipes use maple sugar, which apparently
Yes.
was a commodity that was really common? And I've never even seen that stuff. Is it around to be bought?
Oh, it's come back. It's
Yeah.
come back. It's all over the
It's
place.
come back though as maple granulated sugar.
Yeah.
You know,
And
where
what was
when
it? What was it before? I mean, was there in the 19th century commonly dried granulated maple sugar, not syrup?
no, there was not
Oh.
granulated maple sugar there. It was
Oh,
people took their syrup and made it into hard maple sugar
Mm,
to
mm.
store it. They didn't have the means to store things, so they
Mhm.
made it into maple sugar chunks.
Mhm.
And
And
when
would you have to
growing up as
crack
a-
it to use it? Something like that?
You smash it.
you could scrape it. When I was
Oh,
a kid,
okay, yeah.
I mean, there's a maple cake in there that was always made for my dad on his birthday in October. And I remember literally sitting with the tub of maple sugar with a spoon, scraping it to
Mhm.
measure it for the cake. Granulated, you know, you use a big mixer in it and it, you know, breaks it down. And it stores good that way. But back then they wouldn't have known how to do that. So there's hard maple sugar and you would buy it in tins. You know, state of Vermont had a maple sugar tin. It kind of matched the syrup container.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that the granulated stuff is now certainly in every health food store, but also often in every little, you know, country store, the kind of place that has got
Right.
specialty products. People are making it again.
And it's
And,
so easy to use because you can
Yes.
switch it out in a recipe equally,
Yeah.
you know, use the same quantities you would of white sugar.
Mhm.
So, you know, maple syrup, when you used maple syrup, you always had to do that conversion because it
Right.
was a liquid. And you'd have to cut back liquid somewhere else in your recipe.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
should also mention that in the basics chapter, let me just make sure it is in the basics. Yes, it is. It does have a list of substitutions, like various ways you would substitute, you know, either maple sugar or maple syrup.
Yep.
There's a little page about it as well. And
Yep.
and there's also a page about how to make maple sugar.
Right.
Hmm.
It's in there. Bob, you just got to look at the book.
I hadn't looked at that part. Yeah, I would try to make some myself. I think that stuff is yummy. I remember hearing ads that it used to be put in tobacco for cigarettes, I guess. It sweetened them or
What?
changed the flavor or something. And I was wondering, like, how do they put that in there? But it must have been granulated sugar.
I can see
Hmm.
that being in like Skoal or something, you know, it's not really the
Or
most
or
healthiest
like a
thing,
little
but-
cigar called Swisher Sweets.
Maybe,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
maybe not cigarettes. Maybe I
You
had that
know?
wrong.
You know, where maybe they soak the leaves or something. I don't
Mhm.
know.
And you mentioned this before, but one more thing, one more time again about copyright. You didn't run into any problem with that, because I've always wondered this about recipes. Often people will say, sometimes I'll listen to that show on Sunday on VPR, Milk Street Radio, and the man will say or a guest might say, this is a recipe originally from the cookbook of so-and-so. So they'll mention that author. And I understood that you couldn't copyright, obviously, a list of ingredients, but did you at any time have to be careful to say, oh, I love this recipe. It comes from this other book. And I somehow either have to mention the book, or I have to credit the author, or I have to, how did you cover that? Or did you ever run into that as an issue?
You kind of cover that by the instructions,
Rewriting.
rewriting the instructions. I mean, sometimes it's something as simple as saying, you know, like you're making candy, use a heavy bottomed, much larger pot than what you think you need.
And I discovered that when I made my maple cream last weekend, because it boiled. I had 50% syrup and then 50% just empty pot, but it boiled over and I had to switch it. It was an experience making the maple cream last weekend. It was also 6 cups of syrup, which tends to be quite a lot.
Yeah.
But
Especially and especially with making maple cream, something that you are going to be stirring by hand, because once you cool it, you boil it, what, 232, I think. And you boil your syrup to 232, but you have to cool it to below 40 or right around there. And at that point, it's like this really, really thick taffy. You can barely move it with a spoon. So it's good
Takes
for
some
those
arm
muscles.
But most of the recipes in the book were a part of Mom's family recipe book. So we didn't really ever go to another book and say, ooh, yeah, let's add this one. Or at least I don't recall. And in terms of copyright, it's really an interesting thing. People often say, oh, this thing called poor man's copyright, where you mail your manuscript to yourself and then don't open the envelope because the envelope has a postmark date. Well, that was sort of an old way of doing things. And copyright, the moment I make something, or the moment anyone makes something, you own that. You don't have to file necessarily. You can, though, file at a copyright office, but you don't have to. If there was, if Mom got, and we never filed this at a copyright office, but we can prove that it was online, because the moment you add something to Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, it's there and it has a date. So no one can then come back and say, oh, I had this recipe before you. And it's like, well, but we have the date here and it was in 2012. Plus, we hand wrote all the recipes. So there's no, and took all the photos. So there's no way that they could claim copyright unless it's the list of ingredients. But again, the list of ingredients can't be copyrighted. So there really wasn't much, we did talk about the legality of things at one point, but once I had looked it up and looked into it, they're all family recipes that we were even rewriting anyway from the just family handwritten cookbook.
Yeah.
So you weren't trying to collect, the world famous beef bourguignon recipes from the top cookbooks or something. I mean, there you'd have to credit each one if you were trying to collect them, as a group.
Right.
But you're not trying to do that. Yeah.
Right. And I think for the most part, I think a cookbook is basically kind of hard to do, because it's so entailed. You have so much you have to do. And yeah, I made all those recipes, Bob.
I know you did.
And I will tell you, we would be ready to sit down at a family gathering and I'd say, well, we can't eat. I got to go take pictures. And off I go.
Right. Take a picture before you eat it.
You'll have to wait till I get back before we can eat.
Right.
So, I was, it was good. I had quite a few months of a maple diet.
Were you ever tempted to try to sell any of your stuff? Sell your maple pie or your maple donuts or your maple this or that?
No, I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
But I have a cousin that owns a store in Eden, and she makes my mother's donuts that are in there, the sweet donuts, and she sells them in her store.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, she's making money off from them, but I don't care.
And there were only a few recipes that Jared said, oh, the photographs aren't good
Yeah.
enough, so you have to make that over again and then eat it later again.
There
Only
was
a
a
couple of
baked,
those.
a baked bean picture too. He did not like.
Yeah.
In a lot
I
of the,
couldn't quite get him to put the pickles beside the sugar on snow.
Oh, yeah.
He'd never heard of that. said,
I don't know
"Really?"
how I missed this, because every Easter we do Christmas at the Sugar House, or we did growing up for, until I moved to Rochester. And I think I just never even looked towards anything like a sour or dill pickle, because I would never necessarily combine them. So when she gave me the picture, I was like, why are there pickles in this picture? I'm missing something. And I don't know how I would have.
There has to be pickles. They have to be the right kind of pickles. They have to be
The
dill
sour
pickles.
ones.
Yeah,
And they're hard to find now,
yeah. right.
Specific sour versus dill.
It's
No, dill.
sour.
Oh, not dill? I've always used dill.
No, they were supposed to be sour pickles. Yeah, which just
okay.
cramp your jaws right up. It was to cut the sweetness,
Right.
but yeah, anyway, so
We do mention that, but I didn't like how the pickles looked like this weird green thing in the photo. So I'm like, we have to take out the pickles from this photo. Yeah, it was the sugar on snow. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the sugar on
yeah,
snow.
Like it just looked like a green blob in the background. And I said, Mom, this looks weird. We need to, but we do mention the pickles down below.
Pickles down below.
I'll bet there are purists who look at that picture and say, where's the pickle?
Well,
Probably,
They
yeah,
could be just off camera.
Right.
yeah. Anyway.
Well, I love the contrast that you guys provide to some of the other writers who, have had an agent, and the agent then does the work, and they pay, or the agent takes a cut, and the agent goes to the publisher, and the publisher chooses the cover and chooses the artist, and you don't have any say in it. You're exactly the opposite from that model, which is rarer and rarer these days. I mean, there's still people like Stephen King. He doesn't ever shop around for an editor. He
Right.
just sends off his manuscript, and they just have a staff that take care of it. But I think that more and more people have to be personally involved, just because the publishers are not publishing the same number of books, and they never publish anything that just comes in off the street. They don't even return your phone calls. So I do think that either the half self-publishing, with some of these places like Rootstock, where they will provide you with an editor or a copy editor, any of the services that you sign up for, or none. I mean, you can do it either way. Or in this case, this Amazon way, but you've done all the work, and you've had control over all the work and verified the pictures and everything else. And you're exactly the opposite. I think it's wonderful that we can tell people, in this series about the different ways of doing this. And you represent the exact opposite from the agent and the sort of hands-off approach. I mean, once you've written the book.
Yeah, it's a bit more of a time-consuming process, because we took on so much of that. But
Yes.
if people are interested in writing a book, it's really so easy. And maybe they have to do this for a bit, and then say to a bigger publisher, hey, look, I made this book and I sold 5,000 copies. So
Right.
This might be an entry point into something bigger.
Yes. But then you have to spend more time marketing it and so forth and so on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this way you never mail the books. The people who order it pay the Amazon mailing fee, and you don't have to get involved with the supplies, the envelopes, the mailers or anything like that. That's really it matters, especially if you're trying to have a full-time job and and you're not around. You've got to have somebody to take that all on. Yeah,
And like, we could even, for the liter evaporator example, which again, if we didn't have them, we would have sold half the number of books or whatever.
Yep.
I can go in and say, okay, they're ordering 150 books and send it directly to them. So
yes,
it doesn't have to send to mom, then mom have to bring it down to them.
It
Right.
gets shipped right directly to them.
well, that was a good piece of luck. There's always a piece of luck involved with publishing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a X amount of luck that goes
Yeah.
with publishing.
Yeah,
Right. So Kurumi, or however you
Yes.
pronounce.
Yes.
We haven't discouraged you, have we?
No, it was very interesting. But I have a question. So how much it cost you to publish books?
Really, Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, it's free. You can just upload the PDF for free. And then they take they'll, as you upload it, they walk you through the process and it tells you how much they will take. But mom can buy author copies for $8. So Amazon, and this is just what I think is the number, because it's a full color book, it's $8 that Amazon takes. So if she sells it for, 15 bucks, she gets that other half of the money.
So there is no upfront cost.
Right. We just, the upfront, you can just upload a PDF and then say, and here's the cover, and then Amazon will print it and send it to you.
Does that answer your question? That was a good question too.
Yes, but you are lucky that your son. did
You
the
are
order.
right. You are so right with that.
yeah, you need a teenager, at least one teenager.
Yes.
Well, I'm not quite a teenager. I'm 43, but
No, but you must have been then.
No,
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 I
10
was
years
still
ago,
in-
no.
in my 30s, yeah.
Well, you're a modified teenager, but somebody who can help with the technical
yeah, yeah.
Right.
product thing. But as it really is true, almost any teenager can get through the technical part of it and help, figure out how you make the PDF, how you make the, how you do that part of it. But then you need as you say, a good photographer, someone who can play around with Photoshop.
Yeah.
And that's invaluable.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Although I did have one picture I took that he said it was perfect.
Wow.
I know. It's apple crisp. I remember it.
Apple crisp, right?
Yes. He says, this picture is perfect. I don't think I have to do a thing to it. So see, I got better as time went on.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious what the photo looks like. I don't really remember that, but I do remember an apple crisp photo, but
Yeah.
I know it's got to be in this section, right? I remember thinking it looked delicious, but most of these recipes do look delicious. Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, it was the blue. The blue was cool too. The contrast.
Oh
of
yeah,
the-
nice blue plates.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And thankfully mom had just so much, the different colored plates and everything. As you flip through, there's always a different way of presenting the food, those are 3 different plates there.
Yeah.
Maple bacon wrapped scallops.
Ooh.
Yummy.
I know. Are we hungry yet?
Poor Bob must be hungry. He's had to stay after work.
Oh,
And I did notice that on the front introduction section, that's one of the featured photos. And I said, oh, those are bacon wrapped scallops. Oh yeah, that would be awful. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I picked my favorite. Oh, and the apple crisp is there too on the, so it's the,
oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
That's because he liked the picture.
Yep, I picked all my favorite photos for that page.
I used to, once in a while, I'd go to Burlington and go to the home goods store
Yes.
and look at plates.
They have lots
There.
of bright plates.
Yes, and I found some great plates there. I've got a stack of plates
Mm-hmm.
that I used for that book. They're just odds and ends.
Yep.
But you gotta change it up. You don't want to use the same plate every time.
Mhm.
Yeah. So anyway, I hope
Well, thank you.
guys get a chance to try that, some of those recipes, Bob.
Oh, they're here. The books are
Yes.
here and they look lovely. Yes.
Just got to take the book out.
That's
I've got to
right.
go into the Athenaeum sometime and see that section of the library.
Yeah, good.
I do. I want
Yeah,
to
be
see
sure to
that.
send me an email and to be sure I'm here. I'll give you the tour and
Oh, thank
show
you.
you where they are. Yeah. And the nice thing is we've got a keeper copy and a circulating copy.
Right.
So we've got one that can be checked out, but the other one will stay in the great shape it came in.
Nice.
Well, Doreen and Jared, thank you so much for this. It was super informative and technically flawless, which is always a plus.
Yes.
And it will be up on the website within
Yep.
a few days, or when Scott can get to it another week or so. And
Yeah.
if you're at all curious, you can go and look at a couple of the others. Reeve Lindbergh was talking about memoir, and then Bill Schubart talking about fiction.
Mhm.
And people, as I say, the experience is so different for each person. It's just very interesting. And if you're in your experience is just a great piece of this big puzzle.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew the cookbook one would be really different because,
Yes.
it's not sitting down writing a story. Well, in a way it is a story, but
Yeah.
it's just, there's just so many pieces to it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you all.
Well,
Yeah, thank you.
too.